Hello everyone, welcome back to the next episode of FTB Skies. In the last episode, we went ahead and set up this massive create contraption here, which is basically fueled by this steam boiler, and it powers a bunch of different create machines. We also went ahead and set up this mechanical crafting setup where we could go ahead and produce some of the more unique create recipes, such as the alternator. In between episodes, I actually got rid of the combustion generator setup over there, and I just added the alternator just off of one of these belts, and it is essentially producing us 360 FE per tick at max speed, which is actually pretty good. Also, because we do have brass, I went ahead and made some of these funnels with the filter in here. If we come in here and take a look, the funnels just cost a brass ingot, some dried kelp, and then also one of these electron tubes, which we can then basically use to apply a filter. Now, if I grab this filter really quick just to show, the filter that I'm using here is called the attribute filter. So basically what you can do is put an item inside of here as a reference, and it will give you all the different tags that that item can be used. For example, this calcite block can be placed, can be crushed, etc., etc. So you can basically specify a category of items this way. So the way that I did it was I just took a raw ore here, I dragged it in here, and I used the can be smelted attribute. But what I ended up doing was I added the opposite attribute. So this is cannot be smelted, because once this is finished smelting, these will turn into ingots, and those ingots can no longer be smelted. So then it will automatically pick them up into this barrel here. And that's how I have chosen to go ahead and do the filtering. And essentially that's all I've been doing in between episodes, is just processing some ore, taking a bunch of stuff out of those barrels as they get full. We're going to have to come up with a better solution for getting the ores and resources into our storage system, which I think we can come up with a solution for that very shortly. But I've just basically been doing that in between episodes, and that has resulted in us having an absolute ton of resources. If we check in here, we have thousands and thousands of ingots, a bunch of redstone quartz, all sorts of stuff in here. I might get rid of the dirt sifter here because I don't really think I need too much of this stuff anymore, because we can generate a lot of the resources in here using pedestals anyway. I don't think we really need to sift dirt all that much. We can go ahead and convert this into something else. We can either make it a normal sand, not waterlogged version, or we could even double up on like something like gravel in case we want extra just ore production. But to start this episode off, I have a couple of things up here that I want to get into. So I actually want to go ahead and make the diamond powered anvil, because this will let us repair our tools that don't have mending on them using power. To make this, we need to get some crystallized obsidian, which is actually only being able to be made inside of the solidification chamber. If we come here and see what we can do to craft this up, all we need is some obsidian pressure plates, which actually is going to be very straightforward. We just take a little bit of stone plates there, and also we don't want to use our crying obsidian. Let's use some regular obsidian, which we have there. We need, I think, 3 of those total. Okay, let's make the melting chamber just like so, and then also the solidification chamber requires compressed cobblestone. And then we can go ahead and make this as well. And we're also going to need some fluid pipes to connect these two. And then also a little bit of slime and also some magma. Now we are going to have to hook into this battery for now. So we're just in the meanwhile, let's go ahead and just put some of this piping in like this. And we're going to have to grab our wrench out to extract. And I think this should be fast enough. So let's go ahead and pop down the melting chamber on top and the solidification chamber right here. Now we can connect them up with a pipe in between. First of all, we're going to need to make a crystallized amber, which we can do by using a fire charge, redstone block, and gold. Let's make maybe 12 of them. So the magma blocks can just be put inside of the first slot here in the melting chamber, and it will convert to liquid magma. Now if we come in here, we see we have 2 buckets of liquid magma, which we can now use to create the crystallized amber. Just like this, and we get 2 per recipe actually. Okay, so we have 4 crystallized amber. I'm actually not going to maybe make all of these. I'll maybe make a couple more just to get a couple more of these crystallized amber. I also was thinking about making some of this crystallized armor, because the armor is really good. And I'll just let this process through and get as much of this crystallized amber as we can. Once we have that, we can go ahead and take an emerald with some liquid slime and basically do the exact same thing and convert this amber into the obsidian version. Let's go ahead and put all of these back in here. Let's go put some slime blocks in here and see what happens. Our battery is having a tough time keeping up here. It's actually this pipe that's the bottleneck right now. It's not quite keeping up, but it's doing a little bit better than it was. So this is draining substantially. So we are actually losing power here. but this is because this setup is very power hungry, but it's also a temporary setup because once we have all of the crystallized obsidian that we need, then we're basically good to go. And there we go. We have a piece of crystallized obsidian, which we can now use to create the diamond anvil. There we go. We have a diamond anvil, which was a quest reward, and we get just a little bit of food, which is nice. And let's go ahead and put this diamond anvil over and connect it into the power here. And as we can see, this anvil is powering up. So what we can now effectively do is say it to be always on. We can put the Paxel in here and have it just drain power to repair itself. And it will take a little bit of time to repair, but it is essentially just a free way to repair our tools. I would also like to do the same thing with the tree capitator. I also want to see if we can upgrade this tool into netherite. Is that going to actually get rid of all of the... No, we can. Okay, perfect. And it keeps all of the enchantments. Now we can come back in here and keep repairing this thing up, which is very nice. And we actually have enough of the crystallized obsidian to make a first piece of armor. And then we can put in our crystallized obsidian. And that is going to give us a 7 armor helmet. And let's grab our normal one out of there. Perfect. And you can see how much power this drains to produce the crystallized obsidian. It's actually insane. We're definitely going to run out of our buffer before this is finished, but that is okay. So let's go ahead and make some of these crystallized obsidian boots, which should be as simple as this. There we go. Some purple boots on. Very fancy. In the meantime, I'm actually going to go ahead and add our combustion generators back. That will actually help us keep this powered while these are being produced. Now we do need to add, looks like a little bit more of the liquid slime. So we need 8 pieces of the obsidian here. And then we also need 7 for the pants. So we're going to need 15 total, which means that we should need 4 more. Oh, we're going to be 1 crystallized amber short, which is a bummer. Okay, so we're going to have to go ahead and make sure we make 1 more of those. But then once we have that, we can go ahead and make the rest of our armor. And finally, we can put our last piece in here and get ourselves the crystallized obsidian chestplate. And now we are all geared up and ready to take on pretty much anything in the pack. So before we move on with our create mod adventures, I want to take care of getting all of this stuff that we are getting through our sifters processed and imported into our system automatically. And surprisingly, that actually won't be too hard at all. Thanks to the ender chests that we have gotten from a previous quest, we can actually use these to do a lot of the heavy lifting. First off, before we start importing all of these resources into our system automatically, we have to make sure we don't have an issue with backlog because these resources come in very fast and fully automatically. So we have to make sure that we have a system in place to handle overflow in case we completely fill our drawers. Thankfully, that's where these void upgrades come in. We have already applied a couple of these. Now, I can actually reduce the amount of void upgrades that we need to use by actually going through here and seeing what of these resources we actually want to keep. For example, we have an absolute ton of the warped nylium spores and the crimson nylium, and I don't think I actually want to keep all the stuff that's coming in here. So what I think we can actually go ahead and do is make use of this item trash can to kind of filter out items that we don't want to keep. So what we're going to actually go ahead and do is grab a barrel here and place it down 2 blocks below all of these barrels right here. And what we're going to go ahead and do is take our item pipes and pipe everything out of the barrels except for this first barrel right here. Now we can start to extract out of these barrels just like this, and they will start automatically all filtering down into this one main barrel, which means that this barrel is going to be backed up very, very quickly. And what we're going to go ahead and do is set an extract on this barrel right here, and we want to pop in one of these ultimate pipe upgrades. Now what we can do is basically specify everything that we don't want to keep can go into this filter right here, and it'll go into a trash can. So for example, we can come in here and say, we don't want this easnium, any of these saplings, or these spores, or even these force gems, or inert crystals. We might actually change this at some point, but just for demonstration, we can come in here and say only whitelist all these items. We can just shift right click or shift left click these in just like so. Now, because this is safely whitelisted, we can go ahead and put this trash can back down. All those items that are coming out of this barrel will be basically completely deleted inside the trash can. And we can actually speed this up to show this happening by grabbing the ultimate pipe upgrade and speeding up our transfer speed just like so. And as you can see, none of the items in this barrel are actually staying in this barrel, except for the ones that we want, which includes the netherite scrap. Let's go ahead and see if we can get ourselves filtered on all the different resources that we're not going to want. And there we go. Okay, so pretty much all of these barrels are filtered for what we're wanting to trash, which is a good amount of stuff here. So now all we have to do is make sure that we have void upgrades in place for all of these different materials, and then we should be good to go. There we go. We had just enough obsidian for the last upgrade. We need to get some more obsidian very shortly, I think, but we can actually get ourselves a little bit of obsidian quite easily because we have a couple of thermal machines we've already made. We've made a magma crucible before, which is actually going to be useful for that. We can also potentially make a blast chiller. We might be short on the snowballs though. How can we get ourselves a few snowballs? So we actually do have some blue ice. I think we may have bought that from a wandering trader at some point. Is there a way we can turn blue ice into normal ice? If I come in here and grab ourselves the pure daisy that we had, what we can go ahead and do is place the pure daisy down, make sure that the area around the pure daisy is enclosed, and make a bunch of infinite sources. Now I believe this is converting all of this water into snow. And there we go. There is some snow being formed. Break it like this, and that gave us 2 stacks of snowballs. And there is our blast chiller. Our magma crucible and our blast chiller. I want to set the output of this to be on the right, and we'll input on the top like so. In the same way, we're going to input from the left and output to the top. So to make ourselves infinite lava, we can actually go ahead and put netherrack into the magma crucible, and that will actually produce us the lava. We're going to extract it out of the pipe and inside of the magma crucible. But now this is generating us infinite obsidian, essentially just at the cost of some of this netherrack and also some power. So how we're going to set up this barrel right here is very similar to how we have it set up over at the manual setup. Now, just so you're aware, I do have fire tick turned off in this world, which means that lava can't catch fire and burn wooden objects, just to give me some more creative building and design options if I ever wanted to use lava in a build, but also wanted to keep using like wooden pallets. So yeah, just be careful around wooden objects if you do have fire tick turned on. So anyway, we have our lava being blown out here, which is going to be cooking any items that come down. So once we're at this stage, we actually want to do a little bit of pre-processing here. Let's go ahead and just put a barrel down right here. We're going to want to disconnect it immediately from, and unfortunately this did already fill up with items, which is fine. So once we have this barrel down here, this is what we're going to use to actually separate out the processing. So if we have a brass funnel, just like so, and it's going to try and pick up all the items that are coming through getting smelted up. So the final step is I have to set up the importing from this barrel and this barrel to go into our storage system. What we want to do is set the filters specifically on this barrel right here. We only want to whitelist items that we actually want to keep. So for example, we want ender pearls, quartz, and clay. So let's go ahead and just do these 3. And all these are going to be exporting into a white ender chest. Every item that we have over coming in automatically has a drawer. So what we can actually do is just come in here and we can set the ender chest down like this, put a pipe going right into the storage controller, and then also exporting out of here like so with a ultimate pipe upgrade. If I come over here to the other side and place down one of these ender chests like so, we should see all the items kind of pumping through here and getting sucked out on the other end. So let's go ahead and put a fast upgrade in here, and that clears out everything that we had in this barrel, which is great. The only thing left to do is to hook up this barrel right here with a smart chute, and that is basically it. We should see none of these raw ores being picked up by the barrel. I do want to set this to 64 because I only want to have it throw out a stack once it reaches a stack of items. And it's looking good. So we have, we're missing a uranium drawer. So I'm going to have to keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and actually set that up really, really quick. Nope, so far so good. We have no backlog in our ender chest. So now because we are basically automatically grabbing all the items out of these barrels, we actually don't really need the largest barrel. So I might actually go ahead and switch them out with normal barrels, and then we're basically all done. So we have no buffers or any backups in any of the sifters, which is very good. And there is also no backups in any of the barrels, except for obviously this barrel, the front barrel. So this one is probably going to be always having a little bit just because I have it selected to only drop out a stack at a time. But other than that, I think that's an awesome way for us to automate our resource production and importing into our system. I am still going to keep this system out here for general bulk smelting purposes. What I've been doing a little bit is grabbing some of the soul sand that's being generated here and throwing it into the barrel here, just because if you smelt soul sand if you bulk smelt soul sand, you actually get scoria from create, which is a building block that I want to use probably quite a bit going forward in some of the block palettes. So it's actually a very easy way to make a bunch of this stuff very quick. Okay, so it has been a little while since the last clip I recorded, and in the meanwhile, I have been doing a decent bit of material prep work, because in this episode, I want to build the ultimate create workshop. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the schematic cannon over there to build the outer framework of this workshop, and then we're going to go ahead and build all the create mod workshop setups inside of this building once it's done. And this is a pretty large build. I've gone ahead and used quite a few different types of materials to design this workshop, but I've left out a lot of the internals of the workshop so we can go ahead and do that all together. So with everything in place here and all our materials in this barrel, let's go ahead and get this thing started. And there we have it. Our brand new create mod workshop is done. Well, it's not really done. It's just an outer shell that is complete. We still obviously have to fill this with all the create mod items, contraptions, and all sorts of things. But for now, this is a pretty awesome start to that project. I went with a similar palette combining both the storage building and this sifting building. I kind of took some inspiration from both of these and kind of just made it its own unique design. And I think it turned out pretty nice. I made use of a lot of this scoria, which is really nice for some of the framework. I like some of this kind of unique design I have up front here. And I also made use of some of the create mod unique items like the girders for some support. And also if we come inside the building here, we can see that it looks pretty generic right now, but that's because we're going to be knocking out a lot of these walls and putting our create contraptions there. I went ahead and placed in this wall right here, and this will be where our control panel for the entire workshop is going to be. Also, if we come over here, over to this side of the building, we can see there's a bit of an open gap that goes all the way up to the upper floor. What I want to put here is one of the create mod's unique devices called the elevator. The elevator pulley, actually. Now, I know there are different ways that we can get elevators in here, like using the elevator mod, and they're very simple and easy to use. Just jump to go up and down. But I think for this building, I just want to kind of lean into that create mod aesthetic and just try something new. But we'll get to that with due time. If we come upstairs here, we can see that there's an open spot in the roof that we have to fill with something soon, as well as the secondary control panel for all of the things that we're going to put up here. One of the unique blocks that I used in this palette that you might not notice is the copycat panel from Create. If we place a copycat panel down like this, we can go ahead and basically disguise it as whatever block we want. So in that sense, it kind of acts very similar to the framed blocks, which are also in the pack, the framed blocks mod. Now, before we start creating all sorts of contraptions in here, I want to make sure that we have power for the entire building. And if we come around to the back, we can see the plans I have for that. I have this little outcropping here in the design. I have this spot planned out for a steam engine, which is going to be powering the entire workshop. But this steam engine is going to be a little bit different than how we have this steam engine set up. Mainly, we're going to make use of a very unique mod in the pack that is a Create Mod Edition, and it is from the Create Crafts and Additions mod, and it's called the Straw. What the straw basically allows us to do is we can give a straw to one of the blaze burners, and instead of having to use a solid fuel on the blaze burner or even a bucket of lava, we can automatically pump lava straight into the blaze burner with a fluid pipe. And that kind of negates the need to have a mechanical arm feeding the buckets and also, you know, recycling them all. So it really compacts the setup quite a bit. Now I am going to go ahead and make some more blaze burners. We're actually going to need 9 for this setup. To get straws, we have to put a bamboo piece through the rolling machine. I put them inside of our barrel. There we go. We have 9 straws all ready to go. Now, unfortunately, with the resources that we have, we don't have enough to make 9 of these fell pumpkins because we're running out of rotten flesh, and we don't really have a mob farm up and running quite yet. The way around this is we're actually going to find a different way to spawn in some blazes. And the way that we're going to do this, first of all, is by getting ourselves a mob swab from the mob grinding utils mod. Basically what we're going to want to do is spawn in one blaze and then give it a swab by pressing right click on it. And once we have swabbed the blaze, we're going to grab it with the blaze burner. So let's go ahead and do that right now. We're going to swab it and then grab it. One more thing that we are going to need is something called a XP Drain Singularity tank. Now the way this thing works is you basically can stand on top of this and it will drain your experience, but it'll convert it into liquid form, which means we can then grab it with a bucket because we need to use a bucket of experience to craft up a special kind of chicken feed. So if we place this down just like this and stand on top, it is starting to drain. All we need is one bucket like that, grab it out, and that should be all that we need. I'll go ahead and put this back for now. We'll probably come back to this in the future. But now we can go ahead and put the bucket of experience, the swab, and then I think it's just a seed. Yep, there we go. A special chicken feed that is a blaze chicken feed. Now all we need to do is find a chicken to feed this to. And the way I was planning on doing that just temporarily is by setting up our delightful dirt again. Now because I end up setting the delightful dirt up all the time, I'm just going to leave it up this time, but I'm going to go ahead and make it a little more convenient to get access to. And of course it is a 5x5, so let's go ahead and just make sure we have a 5x5. We can place down 2 pieces of ethereal glass like so, and we can actually walk through this glass. Then all we have to do is build this up and then fill this in with just some cobblestone. Now I want to be able to turn this farm, this on and off as easy as possible. And I also want to make a way for us to kill the mobs a little bit easier than just me standing in here the whole time. So what I'm going to go ahead and do actually is get a couple more items. One of them is going to be called the Mob Masher, which just requires a absolute ton of iron swords, 2 of these iron spikes, and then also the Mob Masher. We also want a dispenser because a dispenser is what we're going to use to turn the farm off when we don't want to be using it. And of course, we're going to need a water bucket, probably a little bit of redstone. Now the Mob Masher is powered using a redstone signal. The way we're going to set this up is probably using some fans to push the mobs around. Now the mob fans from the mob grinding utils mod are very cheap. I can make 2 of them right now very easily, but we're also going to need to get a couple upgrades for these called the mob fan width upgrade. I think just 2 of them might be enough. We might need 2 in each. Let's go ahead and make a couple more just in case and put 2 of the mob width fan upgrades in. We can see that the area now should hopefully push them all right into this corner. We can place 2 levers down, one on the back of each of these fans. For now, let's go ahead and turn these off just while we're working inside of here. So for the mob masher, let's go ahead and just put this down right here and then put a mob masher on top of a redstone block so it's always powered. To collect all the drops from the mobs in that farm, we're going to actually go ahead and use something called a vacuum hopper. And it is, again, very cheap, and it'll let us pick up things wirelessly, basically in a 7x7x7. And it also picks up liquid experience, which is very cool. There should actually be a experience crystal, the experience obelisk. This is actually something that we can use to store experience, I think. So I think what we're going to do is put down the vacuum hopper right here, just like so. We're going to put the experience obelisk like this and also set this to extract. Because this is facing the west direction, we have to come into the absorption hopper's interface and select west to be fluid. Now we're also going to want the absorption hopper to put items right down, and we're going to put probably some sort of big barrel underneath there for now, just to store a couple of the mob drops. We can also offset where this is picking items up from. So as you can see, now that we have this selected, it's basically the entirety of this box which is going to be grabbing, which is actually perfect. So we can go ahead and just hide that area. Now we do want to be able to turn this thing on and off, so let's go ahead and just take this out for now. We're going to probably have the dispenser be right in the middle, probably just facing up like this. And then we have a bucket of water inside, which is great. Then we're going to have to run some redstone underneath here. Now, if we place an observer facing up here, going down into a block of cobble, that should hopefully toggle. So now we should be able to do this, and perfect. And that will stop all mob spawns here. And we can also use this to clear the farm every once in a while, because it will fill up with some of that grass. But I think doing it manually like this for now isn't too bad. And we want to replace everything here with this delightful dirt. And we'll place it all in just like so. And the farm is up and running. Now, all we have to do is turn on the fans, and this is going to be horrendous sounding. We do need to keep one chicken though, because the whole idea with this was to set it up so we could get some chickens, obviously. So even though this will be nice for some passive mob drops here and there, what we actually want is to grab a chicken out of there. And there we go, finally a chicken spawn. Okay, so we can go ahead and give him this feed. And we have a blaze spawn egg, which is perfect. It's exactly what we were after. So let's go ahead and just turn these fans back on. Let's put the mob masher back down. While we were in the nether exploring, we actually ended up finding a couple of piglin spawners that we ended up grabbing and bringing back with us. And what we can do with these spawners now is we can take one of them, for example. So what we can do is right click on the spawner with the blaze spawn egg, and that will convert the spawner into a blaze spawner. So if we place the spawner down like this and then hit the redstone comparator on it, we get a very loud achievement, but now the spawner is not active. And while it's not active, we can go ahead and right click with a blaze spawn egg to convert it into a blaze spawner. So I can go ahead and just right click, turn the spawner on, and yep, we do have some. And unfortunately, the blazes, I think it does count to be raining right now, even though it is blocking the rain. So they actually are going to take damage right now, but that's not a big deal. We can just grab them before they die, and that shouldn't be a problem. Yep, we got 2 more here. Let's go ahead and grab them very quickly. Very nice. So we have 5, and we're just going to basically do this until we have 9 blaze burners. Back to our little project over here, setting up the big steam engine. Let's go ahead and place these 9 blaze burners down, and then we're also going to go ahead and give them all a straw each. And when you give them a straw, they kind of get this unique looking texture that has like those helmets that you can wear that have like straws attached for drinking. So now they're all ready to accept lava. So the way we're actually going to get these guys some lava is by using the magma crucible from thermal. The magma crucible over here that we currently have was producing obsidian. We're actually going to repurpose this magma crucible because we're going to use the exact same setup over there by generating I have no idea what that just was, but that just gave me a heart attack. That was wild. I don't even know what happened. Anyway, then what we can do is come back over to our setup here and put a pipe down under each of these blaze burners, just like so. And we can hook this all up to a magma crucible. Now, what we can go ahead and do, I think, is just place a pipe right underneath here and the magma crucible up here like so. And the right-hand side is where we're going to have the netherrack come in for this to smelt into lava. But yeah, now we have an infinite source of netherrack coming into our magma crucible, ready to feed these blaze burners. Now all that's left to do is to pretty much fully power this magma crucible. Now, I do plan on making this a fully enclosed and contained setup. I want this to effectively power itself, so it'll be a completely off-the-grid way of generating power for this. So we're going to need to go ahead and make a few more steam engines. Now for this, we're going to actually need 9. We're going to need 9 steam engines total for this setup, and we're also going to need a bunch more of the tanks. I think we're going to need about 36 of these fluid tanks to make this setup complete, and that should be all good. And we're just going to want to place 9 down like so to make a 3x3, and then up 4 times. And then we're going to want to place down our steam engines right on top, and we can place the shafts down. You have to make sure that the shafts are being placed so that these are all connected to each other. So just make sure that these shafts are all facing the same direction when you place them. Fly back inside here, drop on down, and let's go and set this up probably just off to the side like this will be fine. And this should pipe right into our steam engine, and this will actually start to produce us a little bit of power to begin with, even by giving this thing no heat. So I think how I'm going to run all the power out of here is probably putting some chain drives in the back. And then we're going to want to run these down the sides, as what I'm thinking, down into the floor, and then we can route the power all through the entire building. But I do want to run the power so that I can actually power an alternator that's going to be powering this magma crucible. So I'm going to want to probably break out the power from this point to bring over and down to the crucible, and then the rest of the power can come straight down and can be routed around for the rest of the building. Vertical gearbox, clutch, levers. This will turn the entire building's power on and off. Place it just like this, and we are not rotating with enough speed. Okay, so this is not going fast enough. We are probably going to have to add a speed controller in here, so maybe I can go ahead and do that. I do have one speed controller all ready to go, and also we should have a cog. Yes, so now we can speed this up quite a bit. Let's see, can we, I don't know how fast we can actually get this going. Let's go to 128. Oh, we are overstressed. Okay, that is what I was afraid of. Okay, so this is now generating 45 FE per tick. See, we are draining way more power than we actually have. So maybe I can go ahead and just remove some of these augments. And we're still draining power, unfortunately. I think this will actually get one of these blaze burners running. So now maybe we can speed this up a little more to 64. That is actually increasing our power now. And that is actually going. Okay, so assuming this is going to be fast enough with this one speed upgrade to fully power all these blaze burners, this is now a fully self-contained infinite source of stress units. And as you can see, we're generating 147,000 stress units just from this one steam engine setup. Now our power is draining here, so I'm actually going to have to upgrade this a little bit. One thing that might be worth investing in with all the noise going around here is called the Soundproofing Blocks from Cyclic. These take some white terracotta and orange dyes. So to get a little bit of dye, I think I'm just going to go and try and find a biome that is a biome that will have flowers in it and just place a angel block down. And then we can place some grass down and hopefully bone meal it to get what we need. Oh, a river biome. That should do. And hopefully we can get a bunch of soundproofing blocks. What these actually do is just what they say. They muffle nearby sounds when unpowered. So for example, this area is really loud. If I come in here and put some soundproof blocks down, so much quieter. Go ahead and see if we can find some space to put these. And that is substantially quieter. Normally there is a mod that you can use to muffle sounds that you can basically just muffle them by filtering for the sound and just ignoring that sound. That mod is not in here, so this is a good alternative. But unfortunately, that's all the time I have in this episode. I know we didn't get to quite get started with the interior and all the create contraptions, but we did get this whole building built and also hooked up to an infinite power source. Hopefully in the next episode we can completely deck this thing out with all sorts of cool create contraptions and automations, so we can basically go ahead and just have all of our create stuff in one amazing building. But thanks for watching, everybody. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, be sure to join the Discord if you haven't already. It's the best place to keep up to date on everything that's going on. But that's it for me, everybody. I hope you all have a good one. I will catch you in the next episode. Bye.